Hello, dear folks. Welcome to the show. Jack Chow on East-West Show, the G&E TV. September is a month of beautiful days, bluer skies, more beautiful days and bluer skies. And the good news is that there are some bigger events going on regarding U.S.-China relationship. And we're talking about in China, there's going to be a military parade in Beijing on September the 3rd. And during the month of September, President Xi Jinping of China is visiting the United States, supposed to meet with President Barack Obama of the United States. The two big heads of the two great nations, are supposed to meet each other to see a future, a route leading to more exchange, more enhanced relationship. Or on the other hand, there are suspicions talking about this, lots of people saying negative things about the U.S.-China relationship. So is it a negative approach or is it a positive approach? Question is here that we are talking about. Joining me in the discussion is my good friend, an international relationship specialist, also an energy specialist, Mr. Drexel Smith. Welcome to the show, Drexel. Thank you very much for coming.
Always honored to be with you, Jack.
All right. And I'm always honored, especially honored, every time you come here.
Clearly, though, I want to correct the record that my expertise is not in international
relationship or to government, but to economic relations.
I know a little bit about energy
Okay.
and energy policy issues. And I have really avoided in our many, many meetings, Jack, discussions on policy because I only speak as the average American.
All right.
But I felt today, when we talked earlier, that the meltdown of the stock markets over the past 2 weeks, I think shows very graphically how important the relationship is between China and the United States. And
that's quite a take, yes.
I feel strongly, in my opinion, that we are talking about two great countries. We are talking about China, who has a rich 5,000-year recorded history that few of us in the West have taken the time to try to understand.
All right, less informed.
And I think we far too much focus on our differences and not enough on our together. I'd like to share a quick story that a professor in a class asked his class to take an examination. And what he did was to put a black dot on a piece of paper, and he handed the paper to every student with the black dot down. And at the appointed time, he asked the students to turn over the paper and write about what they saw.
The black dot.
The only thing on the paper was a black dot.
How big?
At the end, he read the responses. Every student wrote about the black dot.
Okay.
Nobody wrote about the white space.
About the white space. White and open space, yeah.
The white space was 99% of the paper.
Maybe more.
And nobody saw it. They only talked about
the dot.
The dot. I think it's a telling message. We too often forget to take a step back and look at all of the areas that we are so connected. We talk a lot about our economies being connected. And too often even that becomes a negative discussion with one doing something or the other. And I would like to hope that we can begin to refocus the discussion on all the white space and all the very positive things about our relationship going forward.
Very excellently stated. I 100% agree with what you said just now. As a matter of fact, I could do more, no more. Right? And to the audiences, this whole discussion is all called for because of one incident when Mr. Drexel Smith sent me a link to a speech made by the former Prime Minister of Australia, named Kevin Rudd.
Kevin Budd, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Kevin Budd, right? And he made some kind of heavy amount of philosophical points regarding U.S. and China relationship. Well, of course, and that's why I called upon Mr. Drexel Smith to come over here, which was very gladly accepted by him. So that's why we're here talking about. Now, starting with that, your example of the white paper with a black dot, and his statement on the stage talking to a bunch of international, supposed to be think tankers, right? Altogether portrays one field only, that is the philosophical area. We're talking about conceptually U.S. and China, how they pose themselves, each other, right? Yet there are other layers like economical, layers like strategical, layers like cultural exchange, right? Layers like mutual cooperation, like that kind, right? How do you see those areas layer by layer? Do they point to the same direction as the white paper, as the speech on stage, please?
I think many of the topics that you touched, economic, cultural, environmental, trade.
Yes, strategic.
I think many of those topics, there is a great deal of cooperation between the U.S. and China. Where I think we exaggerate and make a really big deal of our differences are on some important topics. There are some issues of trade that I think we argue as opposed to finding common ground. We argue about some of the differences in the approach to government. We argue about who gets to control certain things. And as China has developed and gotten larger, by many in the West, and I'm going to refer to the West as more than just the United States.
The whole West.
Yeah, they begin to be very fearful of this sleeping giant that's now awakened.
Waking up, yeah.
And where are they going to go? And I think the cornerstone, now I'm going to offer just a Drexel Smith opinion. I think a cornerstone is a terrible lack of understanding and a terrible lack of willingness to understand the cultural history that is so different than the West, where I think it drives our language. Sometimes translation is not perfect. It drives differences in how we approach things. And in my personal opinion, it probably reduces down to different approaches to even government.
All right.
And I think that's where we begin to disconnect, and we begin to be suspicious, we begin to lack trust, and that grows into governments breeding a lack of distrust. But I think at the people level, my last time in China, many people in China still wanted to get a picture with an American. There's still a lot of discussion about areas of cooperation. I would rather talk about the period of the 1930s and 40s as a time where the United States was helpful, and not focus on the fact that we didn't get involved soon enough when Japan invaded China. But that's because I like to do things that are productive and positive and not dwell on the negative.
All right, very good, very good. So if I heard you right, you're saying that it is the lack of understanding that caused the difficulties to go further. Am I right?
Lack of respect.
Lack of respect too, yes.
And the lack of respect is created by a lack of understanding
Lack of understanding.
of our differences, because we are different in many respects.
All right, very good. Okay. all
But
right,
if we
yeah.
don't respect the differences,
you're
then
right.
those differences can be focused on the
Sure,
black
you're
dot
right, you're
or
right,
the
you're right,
negative,
you're right, you're right.
as opposed to all of the things that are positive.
All right, all right. So, my dear audience, today we're touching a very big subject. Well, it is a big subject, however, it goes into everybody's life. It is related to everybody's life, especially people like me, like me and my folks over here, wearing a face like this, and also as a proud American. We wish the U.S.-China relationship goes forever in a stronger and a stronger and a stronger way, so that everybody benefit. The worst thing, worst thing, till the end of the day will happen is that they go into kind of war. That's nothing. We could wish nothing worse than that.
I agree with that.
Sure. So let's take a very short moment out. When we come back, we'll continue to develop from the point, the basic point, which is the foundation of this discussion about the lack of understanding that causes the trouble, if we may call them trouble, right? So we'll be right back, my dear friends.